The soundtrack provided in this film is good, but there are not too many recognizable songs, and probably many people wish there was this song from Dangerous Minds, Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise, which goes a bit like this. We're spending most our lives living in the gangster's paradise. We're spending most our lives living in the gangster's paradise. Hi there guys, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel called Blast in the Past, and this time around I have a pretty niche film because I believe that it's a straight to DVD production. It's the motion picture entitled Dirty from 2005, starring Cuba Gooding Jr. and Clifton Jr. also. And it's a very interesting film because it flew under the radar because of its low budget. It was little advertised in the media, but I think that at the end of the day it's a pretty worthy picture, worth checking out. So without further ado, buckle up and let's get ready for a wild ride with the cops in LA. Here it goes.
I love being a gangster. I love my barrio. Maybe that's why I became a cop.
The film Dirty revolves around two gangbangers turned cops who join the LAPD force, and they are definitely not role models, Boy Scouts. They are dirty cops, they conduct some shady business on the side, and it's with the approval of the supervisor. And it shows the dark side of being a cop, so much temptation in the business to earn some quick money, but as we all know, no money is quick and easy. And if it is, it usually right to the place 6 feet under, if you catch my drift.
There's 13 keys with your names written all over it.
Hundreds of thousands, maybe even more.
And the cops are to partake in yet one another illegal trade, illegal deal, and as you can imagine, nothing goes according to plan, everything goes south. And what happens later on, it's a spiral of events, none of them ending up particularly well for the parties involved. But it's a story of a partial redemption also, and you can clearly see that it derives a lot from Training Day from 2001 with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke, directed by Antoine Fuqua, a fantastic film. And later on, in hindsight, it's very similar to End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Police! King Kong ain't got nothing on me!
Michael Pena from 2012, but of course this film Dirty is from 2005, so this is the predecessor if anything. But in hindsight, so End of Watch, come on, it's a better film because it has bigger production values, a bigger budget, so it wins hands down. But for what it's worth, for what it is, Dirty is also a very interesting flick, which holds no punches, that's for sure, in showing violence, brutality. It may be a bit over the top, especially Cuba Gooding Jr.'s part, which I will elaborate on later, but all in all, it's a pretty worthy pick in its own category of straight-to-DVD releases.
And run. 1, 2, 3.
Now a couple of words about this DVD release. It's the Polish one. I have no idea whether this film is available on Blu-ray or not. If it is, so probably it will be in Germany because they release basically everything, which is pretty good, and I like having German subtitles. So the cover is very slick, and you can see the clear inspirations derived from Training Day with Denzel Washington. Later on, End of Watch actually looks pretty similar in terms of the cover, but that film was from 2012, but I don't think that it tried to copy Dirty, which was and still is a pretty unknown flick. And here is the spine, here is the back cover. So as you can see, even from the cover itself, there is some potential oozing out. Although it looks a little bit cheap, and in the past you would find it in a bargain bin, that's for sure. Anyhow, I think that it's worth its price, it's worth its money. You get even more than you pay for, and I think that this constitutes a value in itself.
This is our time now.
Everybody knows you're just the one of you who can't stand on his own feet. What?
But coming back to the DVD release and the picture quality, even when you have a look at the scene, so you can see that the picture is very crisp, very sharp, quite surprisingly for a mere DVD release. However, what I don't like about it's not about the technical aspects zoomed in, but it's not, obviously. Maybe on the one hand the atmosphere is more intimate, maybe that's what the director had been aiming for before the release when he was making this film, but on the other hand it looks a little bit cheap, and that's what I don't like. I like bigger pictures, wider shots, when the whole landscape panorama is presented, and in here this element is missing. But apart from that, the picture quality is fantastic. I have no complaint. And in this case, I would even venture to say, I would even risk saying that actually we don't need any Blu-ray release, because this DVD release will do just fine.
I believe there was a difference between us and them.
Regarding the plot and the acting, like I've said before, it's an iteration of Training Day, but made on the cheap, unfortunately, because the budget was only $3 million, and I'm not sure about the theatrical release, but it grossed something around $400,000 worldwide. Maybe it was saved on the home market, I have no idea, but at that time people stopped renting flick discs. I think it was a slowdown in that business. It started to crumble, to fall down. And nonetheless, the story presented in the film is kinda interesting and engrossing, because this is a no-brainer. When you have two dirty cops working together, there is albeit element thrown in for a good measure, although in this case they are not a match made in heaven, but they need to trust each other because their lives are on the line every single day. And
We get it with Bang, we get rich. Hear me?
Pretty quick to get on that Bane program, ain't you?
Don't hate the player, hate the game, cuz.
you may have your own favorite. None of the characters is good. Even the one played by Clifton Collins Jr., although he's a better guy, he's not a clean guy at all, that's for sure. But he has some redeeming values, whilst Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character probably we could say that does not. But he's like Denzel Washington multiplied by 10. So actually Cuba Gooding Jr. is trying to pull off Denzel Washington from Training Day, and he does it in many scenes. And he's not a friendly neighborhood cop, that's for sure. He's a boy in blue, but his heart is black. But black because of his vile, malicious nature. And there are many instances along the narrative of him going all the way, of police brutality, of terrorizing potential suspects, or even if they are not potential suspects. And there is a one dirty scene with a girl.
White cotton panties. I bet you I can get you wet in front of your boyfriend.
Who is a bystander, and she spits on Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character's face, and of course he doesn't like it, so then he starts tormenting her. He takes her panties off, as he calls it, starts sniffing it, the underwear, but karma is a, you know what, karma is a witch, and everything comes back to him, and also everything comes back to the character played by Clifton Collins Jr. Not on such a big scale, but still.
White cotton undies. Yeah, man. Oh, wait, hold it. Wait a minute. I forgot. Are you Cuba holder or not?
Like I mentioned before, the film doesn't pull any punches in its representation of dirty cops, this dirty side of the business, and even the supervisor played masterfully by Keith Richards, for example, from There's Something About Mary, as the father of titular Mary. He does a magnificent job, and his character, he condones it, what is going on in his department.
It's not the end of the world. These kind of things happen. Let's have a look at it.
But when everything goes awry, he cuts himself off from the guys, and they are left on their own. And the narrative is encapsulated pretty well in its running time, the running time of the film, because it's around 95 minutes, which is just perfect. And all in all, Cuba Gooding Jr. is a little bit forgotten right now. There have been some scandals recently about Me Too, but in the past that was quite surprising when he got his first and the last Oscar for a supporting role in 1997, Maguire, with his scene "Show me the money, show me the money, show me the money."
Show me the money.
And that was kind of an interesting, controversial pick for the Oscar for the Best Supporting Actor, but after that it was a downhill for him, unfortunately, because he started pretty strongly in the business. That was a very strong introduction with Boys in the Hood.
Just goes on and on, you know.
Here that they don't know. Don't show.
And of course Jerry Maguire and several roles. He was an extra in Coming to America in a barber shop, and especially in the 2000s at the beginning.
Now that was a great boxer!
You damn right.
I suppose nobody in here ever heard of Cassius.
He had his pet project called Radio, in which he committed one of the sins mentioned in Tropic Thunder about playing people who have some mental disabilities, and he commits exactly that error, that mistake.
Never go for a retard. You don't buy that? Yeah, Sean Penn, 2001, I am saying.
But I definitely need to come back to Radio, starring also Ed Harris, because I think that this film might be underappreciated, although it provides some funny material, but not on purpose, unfortunately, in terms of the main performance. But, like I said, it wouldn't be fair for me to judge it. But apart from that,
I'll find you something to do.
in the 2000s and later on, it was a slippery slope for Cuba Gooding Jr. Going straight into home, straight to DVD market. A similar case to Nicolas Cage, but a little bit earlier. And right now he's starting some TV series, but because of the controversies, probably he is a little bit forgotten again.
It's out of control. I have left a grand jury to make this call. Where is your client?
But in this case, yes, he provides a good balance for Clifton Collins Jr.'s character. So he's bad all the way, bad to the bone, and he pulls off Denzel Washington in every single scene, like I mentioned, from Training Day, and he's definitely over the top, but maybe this is what the film needed. In terms of his acting skills and chops, it is okay, he does his best, he keeps trying, that's a redeeming value already, and Clifton Collins Jr. is a forgotten actor, but there is a funny thing that he starred in a film with Samuel L. Jackson from the 1990s, 187, in which there was a very similar scene like in this one, nerve-wracking sequence, but about that a little bit later.
Well, let me take your turn for you.
And here are some pieces of trivia on the film Dirty from 2005, and here goes the first one. Director Chris Fisher wanted to convey a sense of Los Angeles being a dry, desolate place where people aren't supposed to live, which was a challenge, since shooting took place during early 2005, one of the rainiest seasons in Los Angeles history. But that's true. Regardless of the many close-ups, it is conveyed that hot, scorching weather, the atmosphere of LA, like in Predator 2, where everybody's sweating because of the temperature, but also because of the tension, especially regarding the criminal element. Therefore, despite the unfavorable weather, he did manage to do that. Props to Chris Fisher. And another piece of trivia, a short one. Armando Sancho, played by Clifton Collins Jr., and Salim Adel, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., were based on real people, and you can imagine that probably stories, things like this, they do happen. Maybe not in the limelight, maybe it's not very loud about them, but probably it happens, because we can assume that half of the cops are clean, and they do their job very well, and they serve and protect, but half of them could be corrupt and dirty, just like in this film. You never know, but let's hope for the best. And respect to police officers, because this is magnificent and this is a very respectable and reputable job to put your life on the line every single day, like firefighters. So once again, props to LAPD, to all police officers, because without you guys it would be one hot mess, regardless of the location.
I love the vehicle. You like it? Do you like?
And I hope it's not a big spoiler, but another piece of trivia is about the famous or infamous roulette scene. And the roulette scene is reminiscent of the movie 187 from 1997, starring Samuel L. Jackson, in which Clifton Collins Jr. starred too. And this is also a nerve-wracking, engrossing scene, and it provides some additional depth to the narrative. But that's not the end, or the great finale of this sequence may be surprising. Trust me, it's not the end, and remember to wait after the credit roll, because there is yet another scene, which is about some secondary characters, but I think that it adds yet another layer of depth, of meaning, to this otherwise still pretty interesting film.
You ever sub here before?
No, Roosevelt Whitney High.
Roosevelt Whitney, isn't that where that teacher got stabbed to death last year?
Actually, he survived.
And another piece of trivia, the scene where all the Latin gangsters congregate, more specifically where the Russian roulette scene took place, and where the kids were performing a Dia de los Muertos play, is the same building which was the community center used for the movies Breakin' from 1984 and Breakin' Electric Boogaloo from 1984. I think both were canon films, and they are quite famous or infamous, kitschy yet entertaining, so definitely the exponents of the guilty pleasure genre, just like many canon films, especially with Chuck Norris.
Don't be mistaken, you've got to see Breakin'.
Regarding the filmings and perhaps the close-ups which I took an issue with, here is a piece of trivia on that, of course from the IMDb website. For fear of lawsuits, the studio discouraged the filmmakers from shooting at many Los Angeles landmarks, or at least making them recognizable. And maybe that's why they decided to opt for the close-ups, for showing the guys as closely as possible, or maybe they wanted to create that intimate atmosphere, but to me it reeks of the straight-to-DVD cinema, unfortunately. But overall, the picture has many redeeming values, many good aspects, so this is just a tiny thing which may work against it, but apart from that, even the director's work behind the camera is great. And in many numerous scenes you can still see LA presented in its full glory as much as they could, and that hot atmosphere, the weather. And what do you think about this piece of trivia related to the scene shown on the screen? The game that the drug-dealing white jokers that, according to Bane, doesn't fit the profile is playing when Sancho and Adele busts through the door is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas from 2004, a game in which actor Clifton Jr, Sancho, does one of the main characters' voices, and that's a nice reference to the great game. I remember how big it was back in the day. Everybody would play, they would even skip school, or it was close to the summertime, but it didn't matter. I remember that many friends quit school and they were all devoted to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That's how impactful it was. That's how big of a game it was, especially with the RPG elements, which was pretty atypical for the franchise itself.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, coming October 26th. Rated M for mature.
And now on the screen we have Keith Richards' character, the captain, the supervisor of our two cops, and here is the last piece of trivia on this scene on him. Captain Spain says, "Someday a real rain will come and wash the scum off the streets," which is a quote from Taxi Driver from 1976, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring, of course, Robert De Niro. You talking to me? You talking to me? Everybody knows this scene. It's been recycled numerous times, that's for sure.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
But don't you agree that despite the limited budget, the atmosphere of LA, its hot weather, its climate, it's still presented in this motion picture, even though there are many close-ups, so you can still grasp the potential in between the lines. And this is fantastic, because it shows that even with limited resources, you may still create something worth checking out, only if it gets enough publicity for it to be released and for people to know about it, which in this case it's a pity, it's a shame, because I think that it's not a very well-known motion picture.
You gotta stop believing the hype, thinking that there's some gang war out here. Well, there ain't. We the only gang that's left.
The soundtrack provided in this film is good, but there are not too many recognizable songs, and probably many people wish there was this song from Dangerous Minds, Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise, which goes a bit like this. We're spending most our lives living in the gangsta's paradise. We're spending most our lives living in the gangsta's paradise. I'm not a rapper, that's for sure, but it was worth giving it a go. And thanks to that soundtrack, thanks to this song in particular, is Dangerous Minds such a memorable, powerful motion picture. Not only because of that, but also thanks to that catchy song. As you can imagine, Dirty got pretty dirty press, no pun intended, and at the time of its release, few people actually saw it, but those who did, they didn't rate it very well. On Rotten Tomatoes it has the average score of 22% only, on IMDb 5.5 out of 10, but people in the comments, many of them, they defend the film, and on FilmWeb it's a surprising high 6.4 out of 10. And as always, the truth lies somewhere in between. So the golden mean, it would be something around strong 6 out of 10, which is still pretty good, considering the limited resources spent on producing this film and all the limitations, with the filming on location included.
With that power came responsibility.
You go out there today and knock heads with the enemy. Don't let morality make you stupid.
Just to sum up, I love this kind of situation when I decide to watch something which flew under the radar, was or still is not recognized by many people. It's a not well-known flick. It's a small budget production, but it turns out that it was a worthy pick for a screening. Because in this case all the elements are there, but of course it's not with such a grandeur, panache, the potential. The only real starring power comes from Cuba Gooding Jr. and he was already past his heyday in 2005. Still, nonetheless, you may have many newcomers in the business or people who have never succeeded in Hollywood that much, but all in all, I think that it may be even a good introduction to such powerful picks like Training Day from 2001 and this later one, End of Watch from 2012 with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena, which is also a good pick. And I think that it's better to watch it before, because afterwards it wouldn't fare very well in comparison with those two great motion pictures. But in this order, maybe it stands a chance. Anyhow, I hope that you will share your comments on the film itself.
If I was a dealer, you'd be dead by now.
And that would be my take on the film Dirty from 2005 with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Clifton Collins Jr. I hope that you have liked my review. If you have liked it, please give the video the thumbs up. Please share your comments on the film itself if you have seen it, on Cuba Gooding Jr. in particular and his career, and also on straight-to-DVD releases, which sometimes can be very, very surprising and worth checking out. And I think that this one, it's maybe not an underrated gem, but it's definitely worth a spin, giving it a chance. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, maybe please consider subscribing to it. And I hope to see you guys next time. I'll catch you up later. Cheers. Bye.
He reached into his pocket for what my officers thought was a gun. The safety of my men is my first priority.
I thought your first priority was to serve and
Round 2 gangbangers are the film Dirty, and they are not clean. Thus, it usually leads you right to Clifton. Even the one played by Clifton Collins Jr. balance for a Clifton Collins Jr.'s character. So he will grasp some potential in between the lines, and this is fantastic because.
All right then, get in and drive off. Hurry up, sir.